the meeting recording. Okay. Can I just verify you can hear me and see VS Code on the left and Heroku and the course website on the right? Okay, thank you. All right, so we're gonna demonstrate deploying our Django application onto Heroku. So the first thing you'll need to do is sign up for a free account. So it's pretty easy. I don't think you need to enter in a credit card, so that'll make sure it's free. I guess keeps it, safeguards it to be free. Um, and then you need to install their command line tool. So for me, I'm on a Mac. I just use Brew. Whether you're on Windows or Linux, there's different instructions for that. And then once you have it installed, you should be able to use Heroku like so. Okay, so now we're gonna follow Heroku's tutorial on how to deploy a container. So the first thing you'll want to do is log in. And then it's going to kick you out to a website. And I already logged in, but if I haven't, it probably asks for my credentials. So once I'm logged in, verify that that's the account you want to operate under. And then, so we logged in to Heroku using our command line tool. We logged in our command line to Heroku, but now we also need to have our log into our container registry so that we can push images to Heroku's registry. So that's what that line's about. And once that's done, here is an example application that you can deploy, but we won't be using that. We're going to use our Django application. And now this is how Heroku creates an app. Once we create an application, you should see your application listed on your homepage dashboard on the Heroku site. And if you don't give it a name, it's going to generate a random name for you. So we're going to actually give it a name. Create Heroku demo 2021. So here it succeeded, and if we were to refresh, we should see our app here. Okay. If you see prices, you should verify some settings to make sure it's still free. Okay. So this is the URL to the app that Heroku is gonna. Once you actually launch your application to Heroku, it'll be live at this URL. And this is the Git URL if you want to push code and have Heroku build it for you. So we won't actually need it because we're pushing images to Heroku. All right. So, and to get to this URL, you can also do Heroku open, and it'll go to the same URL. And then Heroku has a splash page for you telling you that nothing's been deployed yet. Okay, so that's that one. So this command will actually build the container locally and then push it to the Heroku registry. Okay. All right. And then this command will actually tell Heroku to run the image that you push. Okay, so container push is equivalent to this step right here. It's going to build it locally, and then it's going to push it to the registry on the Heroku side. And then this command, container release, will tell Heroku to actually take the image you pushed and run it, and then serve it and make it live to the internet. Okay? And then, so each time you make a change to your application, you need to push and release it. And then, I think that's it. The other thing that's important is sometimes because everything's happening on the Heroku servers, on the Heroku system, when things don't work, it's really hard to kind of guess at what broke, which step didn't work. So Heroku allows you to kind of inspect the logs. So this is the start of our application, and this is when I try to go to the URL and nothing was deployed. And then instead of having to run logs each time, oh yeah, you can also open the app this way. Okay, and then you'll see a third entry. So instead of hitting it each time, you can tail the log or follow it, and then each time you interact with the app, if there's errors, they'll show up in the logs. And if you wanted to only filter, if you don't want to show all the logs, there's ways to filter only the information you want. So if you have an app or if there's something specific, then you can kind of filter down. So the next thing with troubleshooting is, say if you have a container running, things are running but not running properly. The other tool that Heroku gives you to troubleshoot is a console. Here, maybe it's here. Yeah, here, run the console. So you have the choice of using their web console. So I think console might be, I don't know if it's for like a Windows thing, container, but bash seems to work. So you can bash in and kind of inspect the container that's running. But right now, we haven't deployed any containers. So this container that's running is not really ours. It's Heroku's default container that they use for the build pack, probably. So the other way to get to the command line, to get to to inspect the container that's running on Heroku for troubleshooting is using their tool, and this will kind of spin up, same as the web console, and then let you kind of remote in and do things on the container running on Heroku side. So those are um, ways you can troubleshoot your application. So, okay, so now let's actually try and deploy. I just want to make sure I didn't skip anything by referring to the clip notes here. So we logged in. Okay. So now let's actually deploy our application and see something working. Okay. Let's do that. Heroku container push web. Oh, maybe I should have done this and while I was pushing, talked about all of that. Okay. Uh, so here it actually deployed. I mean, I actually built it locally, and then now it's actually pushing. And I'm kind of worried that it's so fast. And normally the first push takes a while, but maybe because my registry already has something uh, relating to Django and using the Python base image that is a little bit faster. But I'm hoping this doesn't screw up the demonstration later on. But your first push, it should take longer. Uh, Luckily, these layers are cached, so that's why this time it took a little faster. And let's see if we can see anything here. So I'm hoping it didn't push it to another app, but we'll find out. Okay, so the next step will actually tell Heroku to run. Right, so now, okay, this is good. So it actually deployed. This is the hash of our image. So there's a way to read this, but each layer has a hash associated with it. Okay, so now if we go here, um, it should still be broken. So here we can do some little troubleshooting. So with VS Code, I can't really have the logs show along with the command line. So I'm gonna use this screen multiplexer called tmux, and there's another one called screens, I think. So it just allows me to kind of like split it horizontally instead of vertically how VS Code likes to split it. So you might not be able to do this unless you install tmux. Okay, so let's do our logs and tail it. So you notice that we deployed, and then it started to run the container, and it's running with it with the Python 3 command, and then it's starting to bomb. It crashed. Um, so we wanted to do it again. So here you see the application error. So it's a slightly different. The first error was like you didn't deploy anything, and now it's like you deployed a broken application. Uh, so we're gonna deploy again. I'm hoping this will update to show something like this, but maybe it won't. Okay, so I don't want to wait for it. Um, we go to overview, resources. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna fix is tell it to run the container using our normal command, which is start app, right? Not Python 3. And how we've been doing it locally is that we've been injecting this command via Docker Compose. But Heroku doesn't use Docker Compose. All it's using is our Docker file. So we need to make sure that we ship our container with the command provided. So we'll do this. And then we'll rebuild our container and re-push it and then re-release it. Okay. And then we should see a different command that gets executed. Okay, so it's been pushed. I'm gonna release it now. Oh, here we go. Maybe it didn't really release it because the image didn't change. But now that we can push the new image, um, it actually tries to release it. So it's starting. Eventually, it should be in an up state. So here, it picked up our new command, um, start scripts app. But of course, there's other issues we gotta fix, right? And I'll probably fix that next time. So one last thing here is I'm going to bash into our remote container. And then while I was waiting, I do want to show this. Is it here? Huh. Maybe it won't show it unless it actually is running, but it should give you confirmation that you have a web dyno. They have this entity idea of a dyno in Heroku's world. Um, it should tell you that it is running this script, but maybe it won't do that until that is actually up and running. Okay, so now I'm actually in the container on the Heroku server, and if we take a look, it's our application. And you notice that the container that they have only has the requirements txt, because we only copy requirements txt into the container when we're building it locally, but we didn't copy the rest of the source code. And I think that's where I'll pick up on this demonstration next time. Because then we're now into the phase, the step of modifying our application to work with Heroku. We've been using Docker Compose, and Heroku doesn't use Docker Compose. So everything we've been doing through Docker Compose, we need to kind of make sure it's done through the Docker file when we're building the image. And so one of the things we do with Docker Compose is we mount our files into the container, which we cannot do with Heroku. So that's why we need to kind of copy all of our source code into the container. And then the last point to note is, because this database file is still here, we're actually shipping our local development database into Heroku. So if this works, if the app had been working, it would be reading and writing data to this file system that's on Heroku, and we will never, like, when it's writing to this file here, our database here will not get the updates. And each time we deploy, we're redeploying our development database. So whatever was on production will get erased. So that's why we're eventually going to swap this out with a Postgres, and then we won't be using this database here. Okay, so let's stop here, and then pick it up from here next time. And also, I'll hang on for more questions, should there be any. But the mic is going to go crazy again. So, all right. See you in a bit. Oh yeah, feel free to drop off if you gotta go.